What is up, YouTube? This is your boy John from the Jersey Shore, and I'm back with you today to give you my review of 1986's April Fool's Day. April Fool's Day was written by Danilo Bach, and it was directed by Fred Walton. Starring Deborah Foreman, who we know from Valley Girl with Nicolas Cage, Amy Steele, who was the final girl in Friday the 13th Part 2, and Thomas F. Wilson, who was Biff in the Back to the Future series. McFly! If you're already a subscriber to my channel, welcome back. It's good to see you again. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button now and just get that out of the way. All right, April Fool's Day, 1986. This movie is more sort of a combination of an 80s slasher movie and a classic whodunit, the typical whodunit movie. In this movie, or in this film, Deborah Foreman's character, Muffy, invites all of her friends to come and stay with her at an estate that she is supposed to inherit from her mother. Hey, baby! In typical whodunit fashion, you slowly start to see their characters in the film get knocked off one by one, but what you don't see is who's doing it to them. You find that out much later in the movie. As far as the characters go, you have your typical situation from the 80s slasher movies. You have your likable characters, you have your dislikable characters, you have your characters who want to drink or get high, you have your characters who want to do nothing but have sex. So it's your average typical 1986 slasher movies, like pretty much all of the slasher movies were in the 80s. They all had these sort of characters in them. So throughout the movie, as I said earlier, you see one by one, you see these characters getting knocked off. Then also typical of the 80s, you do have your final girl. She gets backed up into a corner, to where she has no other option to continue to go through a door behind her. And when she opens that door, there's a pretty significant twist ending to this movie. Just the other day, I watched this movie, and it's the first time that I've seen this movie in a pretty significant amount of years. It's probably been a good 15, 20 years easily that I have not seen this movie. So obviously, I remember what happened at the end of this because the twist makes the whole movie. So I saw it coming. But what I will say is that if you don't know about this movie and you haven't seen the original, I haven't watched the remake of April Fool's Day. But if you haven't seen this one, I don't think that you're going to see this coming. I don't think that there's any way that you'll see this coming, and the ending actually is pretty cool. So after the initial twist ending that you definitely don't see coming, they end the film on another very appropriate twist. Sort of a payback situation goes on that I thought was pretty cool as well. So this movie was made in 1986, or excuse me, this movie came out in 1986, so one would have to assume that it was made in 1985 or early 1986. And at the time that it was made, there was nobody in this movie that anybody would know or had any previous career that would make any character recognizable. I was a very big fan of the Nicolas Cage movie Valley Girl. That came out in the 80s, but I'm not sure what year that came out, so this may have been slightly before that or slightly after it. That's where we know Deborah Foreman from. The guy who played Biff in the Back to the Future movies, Thomas Wilson. I think that Back to the Future may have come out right around this time as well. I want to say it was slightly after because he looks very young in this movie. At the time, he was nobody. And finally, you have Amy Steele, who was the final girl in Friday the 13th Part 2. So to most horror movie fans, she's probably the most recognizable person in this movie. And this was after Friday the 13th Part 2 was made, so she had a little bit of notoriety to her amongst the horror movie fans out there. But other than that, nobody was anybody that was in this movie. And given that it was a pretty low-budget film, it definitely looks like a movie, your typical movie that was made in 1986. The technology obviously wasn't what it is today, so visually it's not all that great. But I think it's a pretty good little movie. I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it way back when, and I enjoyed it again the other day when I watched it, and I'm sure that I'll watch it again in the future. So if you are a grassroots 1980s slasher film fan, I would definitely say to give this one a watch. I think it's fun. I think that you'll enjoy the ending as well. It's definitely not a blood and guts type of slasher movie. You don't see any of that kind of stuff. You see a few kills, you see a little bit of blood here and there, but it's definitely not a gore fest. It's more of a story-driven whodunit whodunit driven type of a movie. Have you seen April Fool's Day? If you have, let me know what you thought. Leave me some comments down below. Have you seen the remake of April Fool's Day? I have yet to see that. I own it, never watched it, heard it was terrible, but I'm curious, so I'm definitely going to give that a watch soon. If you've seen the remake of April Fool's Day, also leave me some comments down below to let me know whether it's worth my time to watch it or not. I probably will watch it anyway because I'm not somebody who bases my opinions on other people's opinions, but I always like to know what other people thought of things. So let me know down below if you've seen the remake or if you've seen the original April Fool's Day. I'd love to have some interaction with you guys and talk about it. So I guess my thoughts on April Fool's Day are this. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it years ago. I enjoyed it last week, and I think that you'll enjoy it too. All right, so that's going to do it for my review of April Fool's Day. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel. I would love for you to go on this journey with me. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day, and thank you for watching.